She was standing in the middle of my pasture, wearing camo from Base Pro and holding a pink AR-15 like she was posing for a Facebook militia group. "I was hunting feral boars," she said, as my 2 prize bulls lay bleeding behind her. My jaw locked, my hands shook, and then my wife stepped out of the truck. She wasn't just my spouse. She was a top-tier agricultural liability lawyer. Karen didn't know it yet, but she had just declared war on the wrong herd and the wrong family. I'm Rick Talbot, cattle rancher and part-time fencing contractor. My spread sits right outside Cedar Run Heights, a gated neighborhood that built up around my land when the developers got greedy. When they first approached me in 2018, they offered what they thought was generous money. $300,000 for 40 acres of prime grazing land that had been in my family for 3 generations. I laughed them out of my kitchen. They wanted me to sell. I didn't. Instead, I fenced in my property and kept to myself, watching as their cookie-cutter mansions sprouted up like weeds around my pastures. But Paula Kendrick, HOA vice president and self-appointed wildlife mitigation officer, had other ideas. She was 43, worked remotely for some tech company, treated neighborhood management like a full-time military operation. She hated the mooing that started at dawn, the rural odor that reminded her she wasn't living in downtown Seattle anymore. The fact that her golden retriever once got spooked by a cow and knocked over her prize-winning garden gnomes. Paula had moved to Cedar Run Heights for the pristine suburban experience, and my cattle ranch was apparently ruining her Pinterest-perfect vision of rural tranquility. First, Paula filed complaints about unauthorized livestock near community viewsheds. She printed out official-looking documents with the HOA letterhead and mailed them certified to the county zoning office, claiming my cattle violated some obscure ordinance about agricultural operations within 500 feet of residential developments. When that failed, she escalated to aerial surveillance. Drone flyovers. Every Tuesday at 8 a. sharp, with Paula piloting her little quadcopter like she was running reconnaissance on enemy territory. Hovering right over my fence line. Taking photos, videos, presenting them at monthly HOA meetings as evidence of my agricultural crimes. She tried reporting me to animal control for unlicensed livestock, despite the fact that I had every document laminated and hanging in my barn: commercial livestock license, health certificates, vaccination records, and a property deed going back to 1952. Paula showed up with the animal control officer, pointing dramatically at my Angus herd like they were exotic tigers. The officer took one look at my paperwork and told Paula to stop wasting his time. That only made her more determined. She once left a pile of eucalyptus on my fence to naturally deter ungulates, claiming she'd researched holistic animal management techniques online. The eucalyptus died in 3 days. The smell lingered for weeks. My neighbor complained to me about the rotting vegetation smell, not realizing Paula was trying to wage biological warfare against my livestock. Then came the motion-activated air horn she installed along her property line, set to blast whenever my cattle wandered too close to her precious rose garden. But the worst came when someone, Paula, cut a hole in my perimeter fence and left it open. I found 3 of my steers wandering down Maple Grove Lane at 6 a.m. And Paula was already on the phone with animal control, reporting dangerous loose livestock threatening neighborhood safety. The responding officer? Same guy. He took one look at the cleanly cut fence wire and suggested I might want to invest in some security cameras. I installed them the next day. High definition, night vision, motion detection. The next week I woke to gunshots. There she was at 5:47 a.m. According to my security footage timestamp. Full camo outfit, complete with face paint and tactical boots that probably cost more than my monthly feed bill. Pink gun that looked like something from a survivalist fashion show. 2 of my bulls, Beethoven and Brahms, lay motionless in the morning grass, their massive forms unnaturally still. These weren't just any cattle. Beethoven was a registered Angus worth $15,000. Brahms was his half-brother, valued at $12,000. Both were part of my breeding program, animals I'd raised from calves and planned to use for expanding my herd. She claimed they charged her while she was on a boar hunt. They came at me aggressive, she said, her voice shaking with what I assumed was adrenaline, but might have been pure panic. I had to defend myself. These boars were huge. Dangerous boars. She was calling my prize bulls boars. I pointed out that boars don't typically weigh 1,500 pounds and don't have the distinctive black coat of registered Angus cattle. Paula doubled down. Insisted she'd been tracking a sounder of feral hogs that had been threatening the neighborhood for weeks. I called the sheriff. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911. Deputy Harrison arrived within 15 minutes. Took one look at the scene and immediately secured Paula's weapon. She tried flashing some HOA emergency authority card like it was a badge. Claimed she had jurisdiction over wildlife management issues affecting the community. The deputy wasn't impressed. He'd grown up in ranch country. Knew the difference between a bull and a boar. He also knew that discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a residential area, without permits, was illegal. Regardless of what you thought you were hunting. Then my wife, Danielle, stepped out of our truck. She'd been at her office early, preparing for a deposition in an agricultural insurance case when I called her. Agricultural law is her turf. She's been practicing it for 23 years. Represented ranchers, farmers, and AG corporations in disputes involving property rights, livestock liability, and regulatory compliance. And Paula had just committed felony trespass. Unlawful discharge of a firearm. Destruction of livestock. Impersonation of a regulatory officer. Danielle smiled like a lawyer with a slam-dunk deposition, the kind of smile that makes opposing counsel nervous. Paula was arrested on the spot. Her pink camo ensemble looked ridiculous next to Deputy Harrison's standard-issue uniform. The look of shock on her face was priceless as the handcuffs clicked shut. She kept repeating that she had HOA authority, that she was protecting the community from dangerous wildlife, that this was all a misunderstanding. Deputy Harrison read her rights while she sputtered about homeowner property values and agricultural nuisances. We pressed charges, civil and criminal. Danielle filed a tort claim so dense it came with a glossary, citing everything from intentional destruction of property to negligent infliction of emotional distress. The paperwork alone was intimidating, filled with legal precedents and agricultural statutes that most people have never heard of. The HOA scrambled to distance themselves from Paula. The board president called an emergency meeting to review their policies on wildlife management and neighborhood security. Turns out Paula had been freelancing her animal control duties. Funded with HOA money she diverted from the landscaping budget. She'd purchased her tactical gear, drone equipment, even her pink rifle, using funds that were supposed to go towards seasonal flower plantings and sprinkler system maintenance. The board immediately removed her from all positions. Froze her access to community funds. Several homeowners started asking uncomfortable questions about where their monthly dues had been going. Meanwhile, Danielle worked her courtroom magic. Brought in expert witnesses, veterinarians, firearm specialists, agricultural economists. They testified about the value of my livestock and the reckless nature of Paula's actions. The prosecution had surveillance footage, ballistics evidence, and Paula's own confused statements about boar hunting in an area where wild boar hadn't been seen in decades. Paula's legal team tried to argue self-defense. Claimed she genuinely believed she was being attacked by dangerous wildlife. Danielle brought in drone footage, timestamps, vet reports showing the bulls were shot from a distance while grazing peacefully. The jury didn't deliberate more than 2 hours. Paula was convicted of animal cruelty, property damage, and reckless endangerment. The judge sentenced her to 2 years in prison with a possibility of parole after 18 months, plus 5 years of probation. She was ordered to pay restitution, $27,000 total, plus veterinary costs, legal fees, and punitive damages that brought the total to nearly $50,000. Her face went white when the judge read the sentence. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. We bought 2 new bulls, named them Juris and Prudence, a little legal humor that Danielle appreciated. The HOA was slapped with a negligence suit for enabling Paula's vigilante antics. Their insurance company was not happy about covering the settlement. Danielle negotiated a settlement that funded new fencing, a barn upgrade, and a massive no trespassing. Even if you think your Rambo sign that became something of a local landmark. Paula was barred from owning firearms or speaking at HOA meetings for 10 years, assuming she ever got out of prison early enough to attend one. She now lives in a condo that doesn't allow pets or political lawn signs, having lost her house to pay legal fees and restitution. Her HOA membership was revoked after she tried citing someone for overly confident begonias during her brief time out on bail. The new HOA president sends us beef jerky every Christmas, along with a card apologizing for their predecessor's behavior. And Danielle? She framed Paula's pink camo hunting permit and hung it in her office, under the label, Exhibit A, How to Lose Everything in One Trigger Pull. Paula's shocked expression when the bailiff led her away in shackles? Worth every penny of legal fees.